Am I the asshole for getting a nurse fired over a shirt? I am a general surgeon and I very rarely get involved with nursing issues. I have also never made a formal complaint or really any complaint about a nurse before. We had a 7-year-old admitted in for abdominal pain about a week ago. I got called down to the ER to consult. When I got to the patient, I noticed there is no parent or guardian with the child and no one watching him. I asked the nurse assigned to his case where the parents is because I need to talk to them and have them sign consent forms since the child needs surgery. The nurse said the parent was in the parking lot and would call. I am thinking the parent is giving updates, not unreasonable. The mother arrives and I explain the procedure. The documents are signed, we are good to go. As I was leaving to go and schedule the OR, I hear the nurse telling the mother, "Okay, you need to leave now." I hard stop. Even with COVID restrictions, we were not restricting parents from the rooms. I inquired why she is not allowed, thinking there might be a reasonable explanation. The nurse said, she is dressed inappropriately and needs to leave. I looked the mother up and down. She was dressed in pajamas, pants, a shirt that had text that said FKBH, make money, not censored. If she dresses like that, she can't be here, the nurse exclaimed. I informed her she needs to find another case to be assigned to and the mother is absolutely allowed. The complaint I made to her supervisor got her fired. I feel like I did the right, but the nurses have been giving me some mean looks and seem to be distant and cold towards me, which is new to me. Am I actually the asshole in this and shouldn't have complained to her supervisor? She was stopping a parent bring with their child in hospital, meaning a 7-year-old was alone with no support because of words on a shirt? Not the asshole for putting in a complaint. I'm guessing if she got fired over this, then there were other problems. Not the asshole. Keeping a mother away from a sick child is not appropriate. Just because the nurse didn't approve of the mom's clothing, she did not have the right to make her leave. Not the asshole. You didn't ask for her to be fired, and if her supervisor fired her after this one relatively small thing, I'm willing to bet there were other issues with her performance. It was wrong of her to try and make a mother leave her child in a hospital just because her short had a few naughty words. There are priorities, people. Definitely not the asshole. She was keeping a mother away from her 7-year-old child. Cause of clothing and hospitals and surgery can be stressful for an adult. Let alone a child who can barely understand what's going on. That's not okay for a nurse to do. You made the right decision making a complaint to her supervisor, cause if this nurse is making this huge decision based on such a small thing as clothing, then what else does she do when no one is around to observe her actions? Also, you might be set the wheels in motion, but her supervisor fired her. I feel like a nurse would not get fired over one complaint and she did. I get the feeling there was more to it than just one complaint. Not the asshole. She was inhibiting your ability to do your job efficiently and communicate with the patient's parent, all because she personally is easily offended. And if her boss was willing to fire her, a nurse during a pandemic, when nurses are in short supply, this can't be her first offense. Not the asshole. If she was fired, that means the supervisor likely thought it was a worthwhile complaint. Office politics are cliquey and weird, so it's not unusual for nurses who were her friend to take her side and blame you. If I were you, I'd just do my best to be kind and supportive of the remaining nurses, to make sure they can regain your trust over time. Not the asshole. Seriously, a nurse is worried about someone's clothing? Behavior and language, sure, but as long as they are dressed, who cares? The nurse could have easily resolved her offense by not reading the shirt, not being judgmental and focusing on the patient's needs, doing her job. Asking the mom to put a gown on before entering an area with surgeries is definitely more appropriate request in the case that something was actually offensive in this. Imagine this nurse sending away a patient because they are naked? It would not have been dismissal if it was a singular incident. Not the asshole. I get nurses band together and for good reason, but she was way out of line. There was a young child in pain without their parent because she decided to get pearl clutchy and power trippy. That should never have happened. I doubt this actually happened, and I doubt Op is a surgeon. They can't spell. I would think a surgeon would have greater intelligence. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I doubted everything about this story as I read it. This so fucking fake. A gen surgeon has at least 5 years of residency and the initial 4 years of med school. There's not way in hell any doctor would act like that to a colleague nurse in front of a patient, and even then going beyond to a nurse manager to complain of this of all things is non-existent. Not the asshole. If this nurse was keeping parents away from a child over something as petty as a shirt, who knows what else they were doing. INFO. Does your hospital have a dress code for patients and their bystanders? Not the asshole. The nurse substantially overstepped her bounds, and as the surgeon, you can't let it just go by. It's your OR. She would not have been fired if there haven't been past incidents of undesirable behavior. This kind of reminds me of that 911 operator who hangs up on an emergency call because the caller was swearing. Not as serious, but in some situations you just need to put aside your own little hang-ups. The only thing is whether the shirt might have upset other patients in the hospital, but there were definitely much more appropriate ways to have addressed that issue. Not the asshole. Calling bullshit on this. Not the asshole. I think the nurse was a little entitled. A mostly naked person can come to a hospital as long as the reason is good, like their son needs surgery. As long as the person is dressed, it seems like a good thing. I agree with your decision and the complaint was valid, but I strongly disagree with the supervisor firing her over this. I'm surprised that a person as educated as a surgeon should have written, shouldn't have, this is no mere typo. Is this genuine? Yeah, highly doubt she was fired for that, and highly doubt that this is real. Not the asshole. Surely that wasn't the only complaint for her to get fired. Even if what she was wearing was or had something on the front that was completely inappropriate, find an alternative. Even if she was a stripper and came straight from the club in a thong and heels, give her a gown or scrubs. Don't kick a child's parent out. Not the asshole. There are times in life when stuff like, what's written on a shit is just irrelevant. This was one of these times. Her child needed her and she was in her PJs. So I'm thinking she was in a rush to get her little person to the hospital and didn't even realize what she was wearing. Secondly, no matter the surgery there are risks and patients die. Don't want to sound dramatic, but what if this was the last time she may get see her child and she missed it cause some stuck-up nurse didn't like her shirt? A 7-year-old going for surgery needs a parent. Who cares what they are wearing? Seriously. There are kids dying in this world from hunger or just plain neglect, and this nurse is worried about a mother's offensive shit? That to me screams volumes of the women's character. Not the asshole. You had every right to file a complaint. If her coworkers think that her being fired is an overreaction, that's fine, but it's not your fault either way. They should take it up with management. A hard not the a hole. There must have been other issues with that nurse leading up to your complaint that got her fired. It wasn't you that got her fired, it was the actions she chose. Not the asshole. You didn't get her fired, her own behavior did. A nurse should know trying to enforce a dress code for patients and family in emergency is beyond ridiculous. Not the asshole. You didn't fire the nurse, her supervisor did. Not the asshole. She didn't get fired for this alone, not in middle of a pandemic. There must have been other factors involved. But I will be blunt, you ruffled a few feathers pulling rank, and getting her fired. No matter if she was in the wrong, the nurses will undoubtedly think it was too severe. You know how works, the nurses stick together. You'll have to spend some time building trust and mending bridges. It's not fair, no, but it's the honest truth. So you're smart enough to graduate college and medical school, yet you say shit like, shouldn't have. Not the asshole by the way, but come on man. Not the asshole. The golden rule is to never leave a child without a parent or guardian. What she did was possibly illegal, besides being ridiculous. Edit. This was probably not the first complaint about this nurse. Reporting someone for misconduct isn't getting them fired, their own misconduct got them fired. FFS, I wish we'd stop seeing those stories on Am I the Asshole already. You did not get her fired. You just made the HR think, okay, this was the last straw. Keeping parent from 7 years old kid is not acceptable even if the parent was half naked, half in fetish latex suit. Not the asshole. Who is she to decide again? Not the asshole op. Not the asshole. Her job isn't to police what people can wear. Her job is to help her patients and their families. Not allowing a mother to be with her child in the hospital is extremely poor bedside manner. If this got her fired, it's likely happened more than once. Not the asshole. That nurse was actually going to have a 7-year-old go into surgery and be in the hospital with no parent or guardian, specifically, without their mother, because of some kind of personal hang-up about her clothes. Seriously? And the nurses are mad at you? There's no way they know what actually happened, because I can't actually imagine a good nurse agreeing with that. The mother obliviously threw on whatever and ran to the hospital with her sick child, which is great because he needs surgery, so it was clearly an emergency. You did what you needed to do for the patient's safety, and her getting fired was on her because she did it, and she likely had other complaints or did not admit she was wrong when she did it, meaning she would do it again if you weren't there. Not the asshole. What would have been preferable, the mom taking it off and entering in just a bra, or topless? Ridiculous. Not the asshole. First of all, it's 2020, anyone can be dressed however they feel like it. Second of all, I'm pretty sure a nurse isn't allowed to stop someone from seeing their children. Third of all, you really don't have to worry about those nurses giving you the look, cause what you did was the right thing to do. Conclusion: not the asshole, not the asshole, not the asshole. Not the asshole. A child in pain needs someone with them, and no one thinks about what they are wearing when they are on the way to hospital with an injured family member. As other posters have said, there are ways around it. Ignoring it, asking for the shirt to be turned inside out, or covering it. Not the asshole. The nurse was absolutely in the wrong. If she felt so strongly about it, she should have asked the mother to turn her shirt inside out or put on a jacket. Telling her to leave is unacceptable. Not the asshole. Obvio that the mom came in with an emergency. For her, her child is way more important than her attire at the moment. Not the asshole. Hospitals didn't have dress codes the last time I checked. What kind of nurse gets offended by a shirt? Not the asshole. You did the right thing by reporting this. I would be interested to know if hospitals have dress codes, and if so, is it really the job of nurses to police things like that? This is wild to me. You didn't get the nurse fired. You reported truthfully her very problematic behavior. It was her behavior that got her fired. If she hasn't done what she did, she'd have been just fine. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. RN of 8 years here. It is very likely your complaint was not the first, second, or 10th. It was entirely inappropriate of that nurse to make a child stay alone in an ed room, when her mother was completely available. If she was so uncomfortable by the shirt, she could have asked her to turn it inside out, traded assignments with a coworker, give her a gown to put over the front, or even out in her big girl panties and ignore it like most professionals would. In summary, you did not get her fired, she did. I am concerned about what kind of nursing culture is going on in that unit if the rest of the nurses are acting that way towards you in relation to a legitimate concern. I'd imagine her union would have something to say about this. I call bullshit. Not the asshole. Since when is there a dress code for going to the hospital for your 7-year-old's emergency surgery? Not the asshole. As a parent who's had a 7-year-old be admitted to the hospital, I have to ask, WTF? It's a lot better that mom be there with her kid, and t-shirt and all, than that child be scared and alone. Not the asshole. If a nurse tried to keep me away from my young son in distress, then the least of her problems would be getting fired. My primary would then be getting bail. Not the asshole. This busybody actually wanted to stop a mother from being around her child during a medical emergency? She placed the language on a shirt above the well-being of a child. There were so many solutions to this if the nurse took issue with the language on the shirt. Turn the shirt inside out. Put a piece of gauze tape across the swear words, lend a t-shirt from the lost and found. The nurse didn't bother with any of these things. She brought her own feelings onto the ward and actually risked the patient's life. What if they needed consent ASAP for a surgery and mother was outside unreachable because of this nurse? NTA. So she was leaving up, probably terrified without a mum, because of her shirt. Definitely NTA. Edited to add, if she's been fired, it's probably not just for this incident. Possible other issues too. Nurse here. That boy needed his mom. He was sick and needed surgery. The mom has parental rights. The nurse did not have the right to be overly sensitive about a shirt. Not the asshole.